Sponsored by the Degama Group.
Welcome to Rumbo Minero. My name is Jorge Leon Benavides, and together with Cesar Campos, we are going to develop this program, Rumbo Minero. How are you, Cesar?
What a pleasure, Jorge, as always.
Well, we have an important interview with Gonzalo Tamayo, former Minister of Energy and Mines and partner of Macroconsult. We are going to talk a little bit about copper, a little bit about Plan Unidos and the Luksic Group, which recently became a major shareholder of Minas Buenaventura, right?
19% has also been acquired in the secondary market in the Lima Stock Exchange. We will also have the presence of Iván Arenas, who is a renowned political analyst of the mining sector, a communicator also of this segment, to talk about such a current issue as illegal mining, extortion, and this multisectoral commission that the executive branch has promoted.
It is $2.5 billion or $3 billion. We are still discerning about the figure that illegal mining in Peru manages per year. So this program will definitely continue to invite specialists to give ideas for solutions to such an important issue for all Peruvians. Next, we will listen to Gabriela Chicoma with the main mining news of the week.
Thank you, Jorge. These are the main mining news of the week. American Lithium Corp released the results of its updated preliminary economic assessment for its Falcani lithium project located in Macusani, Puno. In that report, the Canadian company projected 32 years of mining, followed by 11 years of reserve processing over the life of Falcani. He also revealed that the after-tax value of the Falcani project increased to $5.1 billion, more than tripling from the $1.5 billion estimated in 2009, considering the current price of high-purity lithium carbonate. Cerro de Pasco Resources Inc. announced that the Independent Mining Council of the Ministry of Energy and Mines issued a final resolution supporting its request for a legal easement to access the areas corresponding to the El Metallurgista concession and the Relabs Cula-Cocha project, PASCO. Thus, the Canadian mining company will be able to continue with the process to obtain such right and move forward with the confirmatory exploration through a drilling program of 40 holes. From January to October 2023, Sociedad Minera Cerro Verde, controlled by Freeport-McMoRan, recorded a production of 396,360 fine metric tons of copper at its mine in Arequipa, above the 377,457 fine metric tons observed in the similar period of the previous year, making it the largest operation of the red metal in Peru. In the search to prolong its presence in the southern region, it aims to extend its useful life.
Many thanks to Gabriela Chicoma for the main mining news of the week. Well, we now meet, as we had announced, with Gonzalo Tamayo, former Minister of Energy and Mines and partner of Macroconsult. Let's talk a bit about copper, Plan Unidos, and the Luksic Group. How are you, Gonzalo? Welcome back to Rumbo Minero.
Hi, Jorge. How are you? Nice to meet you. Cesar?
Gonzalo, tell us, the World Bank projected for Peru in a recent global report a growth of 2.5% for this year, a lower figure than the one that was thought in October of 2.7, which was what was projected, and much lower than what was calculated by the MEF, by the BCR of 3%. But all these figures depend on the behavior of the mining sector and its performance during the year. How do you foresee what may happen in the future in the mining sector? There are several challenges. There is good news on the one hand, others, as always, of the permissiveness, right? Hey, how do you see things?
Let's see. Look, I think there is a consensus that this year is going to be a rebound year. I think that last year has been one of the worst we have had, not only as numbers, but as a feeling, as a trend, even though mining last year was the one that defended that the numbers were less negative. And it is this year. We are going to have part of the rebound of those industries that suffered, had problems last year, but mining is going to have the full effect of Quellaveco. No, because as it has entered in parts, it has entered as it usually happens with a process, with an issue, with a mine of that magnitude while all the mining components were activated, next year we will have effectively Quellaveco at full capacity. And I foresee that there may be fewer track disruption issues, right? We had problems at some points early last year by the social situations affected the mining production. Hopefully this year we will not have that. So if both things happen, I believe that mining will continue to be an important force for the numbers to give us support for that rebound.
Specifically in the case of copper, Gonzalo, the year 1023 was characterized by not having a more or less stable growing price. It was random. It did not have a very good overall performance. There are projections that even go up to the year 2025 that do speak of a better sustainability of copper. How do you see the development of this commodity that is so important for us to the extent that we also expect to operate new mining units that would produce it?
Last year, I think the expectation was that the world economy would have two paths, either a strong recession or a more or less soft landing, or a more or less soft landing. And in the case of thinking about a strong recession, that of course has put limits on the growth of the copper price. China has its own complications. The United States was in all this uncertainty as to whether the pace of interest rate hikes was going to tighten the economy. Today we are probably in a scenario of a softer landing. Yes, and in that context we probably have more stability in the price. Not yet a major takeoff. Cochilco has just revised its copper price expectations somewhat upwards. And there are two issues that are, I think, important for that. That is this environment of this global soft landing. And unfortunately, for example, the problems that FQM has in Cobre Panama, which is an offer that was going to go to the market that is no longer going, more or less about 300,000 tons that are no longer going to be there. And part of the Chilean production itself has its own grade problems and cost problems. So the market is suddenly a little tighter, but not very tight. And that has led Cochilco to have revised their forecasts upward. 385 is the number that they have. They are generally conservatives, but I would say they give you support at the price that we have been seeing, and that hopefully with the energy transition and the demand it will generate on a key commodity such as copper, we will have positive prices in the coming years.
Gonzalo, if you could explain to us a little about the United Plan and what it has to do with the mining sector, because we are seeing that the government in the regulatory proposals has carried out 21, but 16 are still maturing. Is the government really able to, because we are seeing that this government, there are several things it is saying, some of them are being fulfilled and others unfortunately are not happening. So explain to us so that all the readers can understand the plan, Unidos. What does it have to do with, what is the mining sector going to do with this plan, or how is it going to collaborate, and what is happening with these regulations that are not being complied with?
Look, there is a set of regulatory decisions of changes and procedures that are coming, that are the evaluation, not just now, because these are things that have been identified in the past years, but apparently a discussion package has been put together between the government and the private sector to look for what you said, right, at the beginning, to see how to alleviate some of the difficulties that the sector has had. So there is a component of these measures that has to do with mining exploration, and a component that has to do with exploration and operation, and another component that has to do with closure. I think that, let's say in perspective, the exploration ones are key, and there the issues have been more or less known for a long time. They have to do with understanding that mining exploration is a very low-risk activity, and that mining exploration does not necessarily lead to mining development. There are many stages to go through, so the more we encourage mining exploration, the better we will be able to find deposits. And there are issues that have to do with that. For example, positive administrative silence. I believe that this would really represent an important qualitative change. Based on the recognition that the environmental impact of the exploration activity in small and medium-sized...
At what stage of positive administrative silence?
In the approval, that is to say, today rather...
For exploitation, for exploration?
For exploration. For exploration in what are activities, let's say, of a limited number of platforms. Then there are issues that sometimes have to do with the duplication of community consultation procedures, both in the environmental part as well as in the prior consultation part. No? And many times in exploration cases, the communities have already reached an agreement with the company, the exploration company. So, and it is an agreement, let's say, binding for both parties, a private agreement that then has to be somehow implemented in the environmental consultation and in the prior consultation. And it is to consult the same population twice. And there may be a space for simplification. And the other issue that has to do a little more with the operation, the ITS have been a tool that have made it possible, let's say, give some flexibility. Because let's say an ITS works and is allowed when there are relatively small increases, around 15% in some important components. So this is an idea that, for example, Daniel Cardoso had, that Miguel Cardoso, that even Victor Gobitz also raised this point. That is to say, if we imagine that all copper operations through an ITS can increase their production by 15%, there you have another Quellaveco. I would say, as an order of magnitude, to understand the effect that this, I would say, simplification process can have on some mining components.
Gonzalo, let's take a look at the issue of illegal mining, which has caused so many problems to many mining units and to the country itself, right? Because we are dealing with criminal actions that the truth is, the consequences are terrible. But the problem is that a legislative decree has been issued that suspends RAINFO, the Integral Mining Formalization Registry, and it also generates a problem for the other sector that does want to formalize, the artisanal sector that is even going to march this Monday in Lima. CONFEMIN has called for a march in Puno and Arequipa. So it seems that we have not found a central point of understanding of this problem. What is your perspective on this?
Let's see, look, I maintain that as a country we have failed in the mining formalization process, and I think that being honest in recognizing a problem, recognizing that the rules have been misused, and that this requires a new approach. And when one looks at the illegal economy and econo, informal mining and the process of formalization, sometimes one finds similarities with a very difficult thing that we also face, which is drug trafficking. No, because it generates illegal flows, tax evasion, corruption, labor practices, practically without any security.
They have similar practices.
Yes, and sometimes in some cases, funds from one side are mixed with funds from the other. So the scheme. I repeat, the formalization scheme that we have, and in which I have had the opportunity to participate, I think we have to recognize that it has failed, that we have failed. And that starts with the fact that a large part of the responsibilities are borne by the regional governments, the small mining industry, the regional directorates. And in terms of capacity, in terms of influence, in terms of corruption, I think it's very difficult for regional governments to take over wide.
What would be the solution, Gonzalo? Because there is an issue that, for my personal opinion, is that RAINFO should be cut there because there is already a security issue on top of that. We are saying that some people who say that they are going to be formalized have access to, and these explosives have ended up in Ecuador, haven't they? Because there is a black market. So enough time has passed to realize who are the ones who want, who are the ones who do not want, and suddenly make a different plan. Now, you have explained very well the part of the problem and the failure that has occurred. What is the solution that you think is the closest? There was talk of being able to put this one government offices that can buy and legalize the informal workers, decentralized from the central government and its SUNAT office on the side, to be able to do some sort of more practical thing. How do you see it?
Look, I think you need two things. One is very important. Illegal mining has to be prosecuted. No, and that has more characteristics of the police regime. And the formalization issue requires an administrative centralization. Because today, what do you have? Today you have the Ministry of Energy and Mines and the regional directorates.
That they are the ones who give the RAINFO.
No, so you have to cancel the RAINFO, and you have to centralize. As hard as this may sound for the regional governments, you have to centralize. Why? Because by centralizing, what are you going to do? give them the responsibility, not only the mining part to Energy and Mines, but also the environmental part to the Ministry of Environment. The security issues will be more dependent on the Ministry of the Interior than on the, let's say, police regions. Labor issues, hey, should go through SUNAFIL, not through the labor directorates. That is to say, there is no capacity at the regional government level for understand a problem that today I believe has become a national security.
And there can be a lot of corruption too, can't there? That is.
Of course. In other words, I think it is clear that illegal mining or informal mining has captured some regional governments, and has also captured some congressmen. And I think we more or less know.
Yes, it is a very old topic as well. There were even narco benches, as some specialists pointed out. We wanted to finish, and forgive me, Gonzalo, because time is short since Jorge announced the acquisition by the Luksic Group of this participation through the secondary market of the stock exchange, an important shareholding in the Buenaventura company. What does this mean for us?
Look, the Luksic Group is a major mining operator, right? Antofagasta Minerales entering the copper world. They have announced that their intention is to contribuir a que a través de Buenaventura there is a greater exposure to the copper business in Peru, right? And I think it is positive because it really shows that there is international investment entering Peruvian companies. Buenaventura is an unlisted company. It is one of the first companies that placed the ADR in the international market. And I think that the participation of any international investor in Peruvian mining is a healthy fact.
I think it is coming from Chile, isn't it? It is a large, important group, but it comes from Chile, which is a copper producer, right? So I think there are some interesting signals about the future of Peru with respect to copper and the potential it has with respect to copper, right?
Of course, because there are projects that hopefully will come to light. And I believe that in some decisions that are being taken, we are going to see some progress in, let's say, in Maculada, Ampliación Antamina, right? What is left in Toromocho, Zafranal is close.
I think the world needs it. The world is in need of copper now, isn't it?
Look, Norway, the Norwegian parliament has just opened the discussion and just approved the exploration, underwater mining. In the logic of going to the new frontier. It is an issue, of course, that has its opponents. But Norway is a leading country in environmental issues. It's a leading country in electric vehicles, a leading country in energy recession, and it's looking at the seabed as a source of minerals.
Okay, it is diversifying. Thank you very much, Gonzalo Tamayo, former Minister of Energy and Mines and partner of Macroconsult. Thank you.
A ustedes.
Okay, now let's go to Gabriela Chicoma for an Expomina announcement. Go ahead, Gabriela.
Thank you very much. Expomina Peru, the largest and most important mining meeting in Peru in 2024, with 16 years of experience, do business with the mining sector of Peru and America. Expomina Peru from September 11th to 13th, 2024 at the Jockey Lima Exhibition Center. Portfolio of mining projects in Peru for more than $53 million and portfolio of mining projects in America for $450 million. Invest with the leaders, participate in Expomina Peru 2024. For more information, please visit our website www.expominaperu.com.
Well, in our America Mining block, we now connect with José Gonzáles from Wall Street, New York, our international editor of Rumbo Minero magazine. José, how are you?
Hey, very good, Jorge. Always happy to be in the program.
José, tell us a little bit about it. This week saw the opening of the 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, better known as Davos, by the location in Switzerland, where it is held under the central idea of rebuilding trust, and pointing out that one of the biggest risks to the global economy is the foreign climate. What is the tenor of the discussions in Davos in this regard, and what are the implications for global mining? Tell us a little bit about Davos.
That's right, Jorge. The formal themes of the meeting this year revolve around 4 pillars: security and cooperation, growth and employment, artificial intelligence, and long-term strategies for climate change. According to the Global Risks Report for 2024, around which the theme of the meeting is organized, environmental risks could reach a point of no return in the next decade. The World Economic Forum ranks extreme weather as the main risk most likely to present a material crisis on a global scale this year, predicting that the warming phase of the El Niño cycle and the Southern Oscillation will intensify and increase. The forum also considers extreme weather as the second most serious risk in the next 2 years after misinformation, and the first in the next 10 years as a climate tipping point could be generated in the next decade. According to the report, recent research suggests that the threshold for triggering potentially irreversible and self-perpetuating long-term changes in certain planetary systems is likely to be exceeded, with an increase in temperatures of 1.5 degrees Celsius expected to be reached in the early 1930s. Many economies, the report states, will remain largely unprepared for the non-linear impacts of such circumstances, and in terms of the activation of a nexus of various related socio-environmental risks that have the potential to accelerate climate change through carbon emissions, amplifying related impacts, and threatening climate-vulnerable populations. What does this mean? The forum is always focused on economic issues, primarily economic issues, but it also calls for a long-term strategy for climate, nature, and energy that puts the world on track to achieve climate goals while enabling growth. The forum always focuses primarily on economic issues, promoting energy, food, and water security by requiring a rapid transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The forum, that lasts 3 days and has multiple meetings, is devoting a good portion of its time to alternative energy, extreme weather, and ways to reduce them. That all point, as in COP28 decarbonization, that are favorable to the electromobility of the energy transition and critical minerals, and especially mining countries like Peru.
Along the lines of what you are exposing us, Jose, the International Energy Agency last week has published a report about what the international media is calling the report announcing the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era. Explain to us what brings us this very dramatic report, shall we say, from the International Energy Agency.
Good news, Cesar, from the International Energy Agency, and confirmed by statistics in terms of power generation last year. According to the IEA report released, as you noted, last week, oil, gas, and coal consumption would peak before 2030 and begin to decline as climate-related policies begin to take effect. According to the IEA, growth in solar and wind energy supply would outstrip energy demand before the end of the decade, implying that renewable energy would begin to displace conventional energy on a global scale. At the same time, the expected increase in the electric vehicle fleet would reduce demand for road transport fuel, which accounts for 50% of oil consumption in developed countries. The agency also points out that government policies that promote and favor the energy transition would favor such a scenario. Now, why does that scenario seem realistic? Ember, a think tank linked to energy issues, published a report also last week, where it states that emissions related to electricity generation settled down in the first half of last year and could start to decline this year. According to the Ember report, which studies electricity generation in 78 countries that account for 92% of electricity, electricity generation linked to solar power increased by 16%, with wind power increasing by 10% last year. In China alone, solar and wind power increased by 50%. To the extent that renewable supply exceeds energy demand, we can speak of a tipping point, a turning point that would in effect mark the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era.
Well, thank you very much, Jose. These issues, of course, we will touch on in the next editions of Rumbo Minero magazine. And we look forward to having you next week.
We will do so. Thank you.
I would like to mention that every 45 days, the magazine Rumbo Minero comes out. You can access it virtually at www.rumbominero.com and have all the information that we have discussed now and that we have in the program, as well as information from different journalists of our staff. Now Cesar has an announcement to make.
Of course, Jorge, it corresponds to the block, the important segment of AMSAC mining assets.
Activos Mineros, AMSAC, is a Peruvian public company with a great purpose to give life back to the planet. Thus, we are dedicated to contribute to the sustainable development of the country through mining environmental remediation. At AMSAC, we recover areas affected by high and very high-risk mining liabilities, which are in a situation of abandonment or where the state has not identified those responsible. In this line of work, today we are present in 11 regions of Peru, with a portfolio of 65 remediation projects, which are located in different phases. Promotion of private investment. In AMSAC, we represent the Peruvian state as counterpart of the transfer contracts of important mining projects, and we also supervise the fulfillment of the commitments and obligations that are part of such processes. Today we are leaders in business management systems. Among the 35 companies of the FONAFE Corporation, we have ISO 9001 certifications in quality management, ISO 14001 in environmental management, ISO 37001 in anti-bribery management, and ISO 45001 in occupational health and safety management. At AMSAC, sustainability and care for the planet are our DNA, and therefore, we are proud to contribute to creating a better world through the recovery of air, water, soil, and ecosystems impacted by mining liabilities, and thus contribute to 10 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. Giving life back to the planet is more than a simple phrase for us. It is the guide of our daily actions, with which we positively impact the lives of thousands of Peruvian men and women, and through them, our country.
Well, we are now joined by Iván Arenas. He is a political analyst, mining specialist, and he joins us today. We are going to talk a little bit about illegal mining, extortion, and multi-sector communication. Iván, how are you? Welcome to Rumbo Minero.
How are you, Jorge? How are you, Cesar?
Iván, what is the situation after all of us Peruvians saw this situation as horrible as the one in Patas where 9 people died? What is the situation in the area? You who always have fresh information. And if you have really been able to normalize things, what is happening with the mining company, Poderosa? Tell us a little bit about it.
First, there is a declaration of emergency. However, it is still not enough despite the hard work being done by the National Police. I still know there are some, let's say, symptoms that criminality still exists. It is a problem that the National Police is not only going to be able to put an end to. It is a very difficult problem that encompasses not only this area, but also other surrounding provinces, and comes from Lacuabamba, which is the most important part. It's almost next to it. So the area, well, the dam is still relatively calm, but the bans continue. Evidently, there has been a kind of bend, so to speak, but the issue is still fresh, right? As long as these 3 chains involving illegal mining, which is basically a chain of money laundering, another chain of corruption, another chain of logistics, are not terminated in some way or another, as long as this is not annulled, it will continue. The subject, right?
In the chain of corruption, last week, Fernando Sillonis mentioned to us, you were governor in Ica for a long time. He mentioned the way in which official authorities, that is, local governments, sometimes the regional government sector itself, bad policemen, of course, that always exist in the area, and other bureaucrats are involved in extorting money from the mining industry precisely for the purpose of making it survive. So there we have a factor that is combined, of course, with the criminal participation of an official sector or of the official establishment. What is your vision in this respect?
Yes, indeed. The chain of corruption is wide. It probably starts with the regional mining directorates. I am not saying that all of them, obviously, but some important regional mining directorates, Arequipa, Puno, in some way or another, there have been found signs of corruption in that sense. So the issue basically starts there because those are the ones that by law have to supervise, they have to evaluate not only the environmental management instruments, but also the day-to-day safety issues, in short. So the mining unions themselves, which have one foot in illegality and another foot in informality, in the process of formalization, complain about this situation. Then, in addition to that, there are not enough human resources. There are close to less than 20 million souls, I think 17 million souls for next year, only for the control issue in all the regional governments, in all the regional directorates. This implies that there will be 3, 2, or 4 people. It also implies that the environmental management instruments will not be reviewed. Arequipa has around 4,000 applications. This year, it is estimated that only 100 will be reviewed. So this means that the truth is that we need an immediate policy on the issue of mining, let's say informal mining, which often turns into illegal mining, right?
Now, the National Confederation of Small-Scale Mining and Artisanal Mining agreed to make a protest on January 22nd against Legislative Decree 1607, which provides in its complementary amendments measures against the formalization of artisanal miners. This union is requesting that the Parliament repeal this law. Tell us what the legislative decree consists of and whether or not it is an attempt. What do they want?
No, I do not think it is an attempt in every sense of the word. Evidently, it is a step, but it is framed in a fight against criminality. So they argue that this legislative decree is somewhat unconstitutional because it places them as part of the issue of criminality, when in reality they say that they are not part of it. That is, evidently there are some illegal informal groups, but not all of them. Basically, what the decree says is that they give 90 days to all the miners that are registered in Rainfo but are not in force, are suspended. They give them 90 days to be able to really present the observations or lift the observations they had.
But a large part of it has been suspended, hasn't it, from Rainfo, hasn't it?
Of course, there are more than 80,000, 87,000 registered, and almost obviously about 10,000, 11,000 are only with the validity.
Now,
right?
do you think that the Congress should give him the 90 days or not?
I believe that we should. That is, I believe that the issue does not end here. I believe that we should start a discussion in Congress about, in some way or another, to start with a comprehensive formalization policy. This means a lot of reforms, including the reform as it is constituted, let us say, at the institutional level. For example, only one, that the regional mining directorates are not in charge of this, but that it is the minim or some kind of superintendence.
Centralized.
That is to say, there are many reforms, but concretely, this is a step. I believe that Rainfo is important. That is to say, to put order in Rainfo is important.
Sure, if it works, but if it's misused?
That's right. Concretely,
No
it's
way.
like a veil of impunity.
Claro.
But this Monday, the 22nd, Confeming can demonstrate a muscle.
About 20,000 people are going to march.
20,000 people, for God's sake, are going to be circulating in the streets and making visible this social problem that here, Jorge, with you too, Ivan, we have been dealing with for quite some time, that sometimes we cannot take it as black and white.
That's exactly how it is. It has many nuances.
In this
Exactly.
regard, Premier Otarola has announced that he will form the saintly commissions that the executive branch always generates this issue to observe it. How do you see the dynamics in any case?
I believe that there is an issue that is important to be able to separate. Although it has a thin line, let us say, it is the issue of informality, of formalization, and illegal mining, which are not necessarily the same thing. It is true that some informal miners have one foot in the formalization path and another in the legal path, but not necessarily all of them. This has many nuances. We cannot say that everything is black or white. What I'm saying is that it is a social problem. It is an economic problem, but it is also a social problem, and soon it will become a political problem. They themselves know that this government is a weak government, and they say that the government cannot win. Look, what I am saying is that we cannot enter into negotiations in that way. That is to say, this union has to understand that the formalization process has to continue, and has to group them all together, obviously. And they themselves have to separate the wheat from the chaff. But the government has to understand that the integral formalization policy also depends on other actors, including the political will of the government. Furthermore, I believe that if the government continues like this, with 25 or 30,000 people on the street, I believe that the government will end up backing down. In the end, we will have absolutely nothing, and in the end, the formalization policy will be just that, and there will be absolutely nothing. I believe that the government is making a mistake in the sense of the opportunity it may have, right?
The terminar, there are going to be meetings, Reggie, of several countries to discuss the security issue. Illegal mining should be included in any case, because I think it would be very important for mining countries to make a common effort, right? Because even at the borders, there is illegal mining, and it is an issue that is bad for everyone, because as you rightly say, it has to do with drug trafficking as well, right? And many times it gives money for illegal mining for undesirable politicians, really, right?
That's right. They support, many times, they support political projects. Do not be surprised that next 2026, they will probably support a political project. They will probably finish setting up this political party that they have already worked on in some other way. But yes, in fact, look, I think there are two important things to say. One, internal policies at the country level, and the second is a line of traceability of gold. Fundamentally, Chorus Gold, which is what Peru produces, around 170 tons of gold from informal mining. 50 go through Bolivia, Brazil, and 120 through customs. But what I want to tell you is that we need a gold traceability system at the level of Ecuador, fundamentally Brazil, Bolivia, this one, that in some way or another helps us to improve not only the policies, but also helps us first, obviously, to integrate the IFOM, a process of formalization in all countries, and then also helps us to fight crime. Gold is fundamental. In other words, you cannot understand criminality without understanding two important things: drug trafficking and illegal gold. It is impossible. The country is absolutely unviable if we do not understand that we need a formalization process that is conscious, real, honest, and that everyone does their part. Both the informal miners and the miners in the process of formalization, as well as the government and the parliament, right?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Iván, to Iván Arenas for always enlightening us a little bit about how the conflicts are going and how the issues are going. Hopefully there will be improvements, and we look forward to seeing you some other time to talk about this.
Of course, thank you.
Gabriela Chicoma is going to give us an announcement about Expomina. Go ahead, Gabriela.
Thank you very much. Expomina Peru, the largest and most important mining event of the year 2024, with 16 years of trajectory, with the special participation of the United States as guest mining country. Expomina Peru is the only Peruvian event certified by the United States Department of Commerce. Do not be left out and be part of this great mining event. Reserve your stand at Expomina Peru. For more information, visit our website, www.expominaperu.com.
Well, now we leave you with the block of the mining job market, thanks to KSR Global Headhunter.
We are KSR Global, experts in talent management. At KSR, we believe in the power of talent. We have 3 business units designed to meet your company's objectives in a personalized way, from middle and senior management, junior leadership, RPO projects, and assessment tools. At KSR Global, we manage talent, we empower companies. Looking for a strategic ally in talent management? We are here to help you.
Well, coming to the end of the program, we can come to the conclusions of these 2 interviews with Gonzalo Tamayo, former minister, and with Iván Arenas, political analyst and specialist. These interviews have something in common, don't they? This is the subject we keep on talking about, and we are not going to stop talking about it, which is mining. Mining and the solution to this, right? In Oresti's time, I remember that the only thing that was done was bombing and destroying machinery, and I don't think that in a poor country we are here to destroy and bomb, right?
That's
I think
right.
we have to come up with intelligent solutions. Frontal Fight says, Gonzalo Tamayo. Iván Arenas says, we have that Reinfo does not work the same as Gonzalo Tamayo, but we have to reach a solution that really that works, because all these years none has worked and marches are also announced.
Of course, this Monday, the 22nd, the day after tomorrow, there is going to be the march announced by the National Federation of Small and Artisanal Mining, which, as Iván Arenas says, the truth can show a very strong muscle, and that will probably open the eyes of many Peruvians to this reality of artisanal mining and informal mining, which are raising their claims, good, bad, whatever. We will deepen them. But in fact, there is a problem, as Arenas also said, not only economic, but social. We will see what dimension that has and how the government will react to it.
I believe that Peru is going through a new stage. The stage that I believe Rumbo Minero has collaborated in these 15 years with the program is to open the discussion in Peru about whether legal mining is good for the country. And I think all Peruvians agree on that. Not all, but almost a great majority, because the conversation was opened. Now we are in the conversation of artisanal mining, illegal mining, whatever you want to call it, and that amount of money that is illegally all over the market being used sometimes in a bad way. So I think we have to open the conversation without blackmail and reach a point about the mineral that belongs to all Peruvians, Cesar.
A smart point, nothing more.
That's right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. As I told you, my name is Jorge Leon Benavides. Together with Cesar Campos, we have developed the program. Don't forget, now comes the program Peru Construye in mining. We thank you, and don't forget to watch us every weekend on the same signal. Thank you very much.
With 16 years of successful trajectory, Expo Mina Peru, the largest and most important mining event of the 2024, will open its doors from September 11th to 13th, which will be chaired by Luis Rivera, Executive Vice President of Goldfields Americas Region. For 3 days, Expo Mina Peru will bring together the main mining suppliers in a venue of 47,000 square meters, with more than 270 stands and the participation of international delegations with the latest technology and machinery, equipment, products, supplies and services, with purchase intentions of more than $700 million, which will be on display for the more than thousands of visitors that are expected to attend. Within the framework of Expo Mina Peru, the 6th edition of the International Mining Conference, CONFEMIN, will be held with 10 important international forums: the Latin American Congress on Logistics and Supply for the Mining Sector, the International Copper and Lithium Congress, and the technical congresses Mantemin and Procesmin. In addition, as part of the news that Expo Mina Peru brings, the first International Congress on Green Hydrogen and Alternative Energies will be held, where important and renowned professionals will present the opportunities and challenges of the new energy matrix. Reserve your stand and participate in the most important mining fair of the year 2024, Expo Mina Peru. Do not hesitate any longer. Invest well. Invest with the leaders. We are waiting for you from September 11th to 13th, 2024 at the Jockey Exhibition Center. More information at www.expominaperu.com.